We started a 2-part series last week, and it was the 10 mistakes that leaders make that drain teams and business. And so Hector walked us through the first 5 of those, and maybe you'll do a little quick recap. I don't know. That's up to you. And then this week we're talking about the next 5. So 5 more mistakes. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thanks, Alan, and welcome again, Cecilia and Peter. Yeah, we'll definitely start things off with recapping the last 5 that we covered last week, right? So the first one was lack of stability, and having a stable priorities within your environment and within your team, and just having a good sense of predictability. That's always important. The second one, which Cecilia talked about, was the over controlling and micromanagement that we see leaders and entrepreneurs put into their businesses, which we want to avoid. The third one was managing the workload and respecting the bandwidth of your teams and your team members, ensuring that people have the flexibility to have the right setting and work environment around workloads. The next one was clarity, setting clear expectations, ensuring that we provide clarity in the workplace, so folks know what success looks like, that it is well written, well communicated, and that people don't have misunderstandings. And number 5 was having those hard conversations, or avoiding having the hard conversations. That's one that a lot of leaders struggle with, and we wanted to make sure that folks have that one as their top learning opportunity to hit on and really just remove as a pain point for their businesses. So those are the ones that we covered last week. I know Willie has on the screen now the new 5, and the following 5, I should say, to complete our series of 10 leadership mistakes that are draining your team's energy. So let's start off with our number 6, which is our lack of clear expectations. So if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so ambiguity forces people to guess what you want, adding unnecessary stress to rework. So what does that mean? So that's when you're vague, when you don't communicate effectively, you allow people to misinterpret what it is that your expectations are. And so people will naturally do what they believe is right. However, that may not be what the outcome is requiring them to do. And therefore, those expectations are muddied up, and it is never truly clear. People become fatigued, they become stressed, they become frustrated. So, what do we do in order to avoid that? Well, I think we need to really be realistic about what it is that we're asking our folks to do from a timeline perspective, right? Let's start there. Let's create open, honest, and real deadlines so that folks are not rushed to complete their work, because rushed work leads to rework. If you do crappy work you're going to eventually realize you've done some crappy work, and you're going to go redo it anyways. So set the clear expectations, right? And then you prioritize. Is it that you're trying to gain speed on a specific project, or is this true quality that you're trying to do? If the output is pure speed, then you have to be able to tell people that, look here, we need this done within a certain time, but the quality is not as important. It's just completion date, right? And so people understand that, look, we don't need to build the perfect house. We just need a house. I had a contractor the other day tell me a story, and he says, look, he was frustrated with his team because they weren't meeting his expectations. And I said, yeah, they're not meeting your expectations, but look, you're losing money on this project because all the things that you're framing and all the extra work that you're doing in the house, eventually, like, you're building this as if it's for you. You got to remember, this is a built for a rental. It doesn't have to be the top spec home. So be realistic about what your output is, so your people know, okay, this is a quick job. I got to be able to move on, right? And then it's prioritizing what that stretch goal is and what's the capacity and morale, balancing that within your team and putting priority to it. Because you can't just say, yeah, we believe in having strong morale, but you don't put the effort behind it. You need to be able to really put some muscle and understand, how do you keep up morale? Well, you got to keep it up by talking about it, and also circling back on those expectations. So, that's number 6, and it's I think it's one that we can all relate to. I've had opportunities to work for individuals where the expectations were so muddy. I needed a filter to be able to really understand what was expected of me to deliver in my roles. Luckily, through my career, I've been able to really now become that filter. I am the one that now goes in and I filter some of these expectations, and I'm able to communicate it to my teams and my direct reports to. But I would challenge all leaders to work on developing that filter skill, because that will allow you to really lead with clarity. So we can move on to number 7. Really? There we go. Perfect. Which talks about never recognizing effort, right? Reward and recognition. This is something that, a lot of leaders fail to do this. And so if people only hear from you when they mess up, they'll be disengaged. The lack of appreciation kills motivation, right? And so that slogan pretty much says, look, if you're not going to reward and acknowledge the behavior of above and beyond, then you're going to kill that morale. You're going to kill the ambitious individual that wants to deliver more output. And it's tough. A lot of people that I talk to will tell me, well, like, why do I need to reward? Like, they're getting paid. That's what they're getting paid to do their job. And that's when I tell them, time out. Yes, they're getting paid to do their job, but they are going above and beyond. And when they do that, you have to recognize, and even when they're just delivering their job to expectations, a simple attaboy, a pat on the back, or encouragement continues to allow that individual to build on that and continue to output it. So recognition is something that is just so valuable, and people mistake this for some big elaborate spend that they have to do. And I would say, like, recognition is free. Telling somebody they did a good job, or a pat on the back, that's not a whole lot of money. And one of the key components that we saw with Willie's Trucking, and I think it's a great tool that we developed, was a thank you card. It was a simple thank you card that spoke to top performance, and it was signed by the leaders of the organization, and with a little blurb about what they had done, that showed that they were being recognized. And that drove specific engagement, and it drove it like motivation. But the other thing about recognition that people fail to do, with that goes just in delivering recognition, is the timeliness of recognition. It's when it's delivered. That is so important, because it has to be timely. Don't go thank somebody for a job that they did 3 months ago. It's already forgotten about. So you have to make sure that it is something that is timely to when the accomplishment was achieved. It's specific, and very important, it's sincere. Like, you cannot fake it. If you're faking the messaging and the recognition, it will be seen, and it will destroy your credibility as a leader. So, as we talk about this, it's important that we recognize that, right? And what I mean into this is, like, don't just send out an email, pick up the phone and talk to the individual. And that is what is going to be key to delivering a sincere thank you, a sincere recognition from a leadership standpoint. So I know, Willie, this is one that you have some really good experience from your time at Willie's Trucking. Is there anything that you'd like to add on this one? And I know you're at the airport, but anything that you might want to add here?
You're muted, Willie.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Yeah, this is when you were talking about this recognition thing, is something that I still to this day have to always remind myself. And so I think sometimes as driven leaders, we just want to go and do everything, but we forget to recognize our team as we go. And I could even
Hector, can I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely, Alan. Go for it. It's a small group today, so we can certainly make it a bit more interactive.
I love that you talked about the timeliness of recognition. You said, well, you can't do it 3 months down the road. They'll forget. Well, not only would they maybe forget 3 months down the road, but if we don't praise somebody or give that recognition is deserved immediately or right when we, in the timeline, resentment I have found sets in from that team member or from that employee, and it gets very difficult then to sort of do something that will cause that to disappear. That resentment just hangs on and it stays there. And then when we do praise them or give them recognition, it's almost unbelievable at that point. They don't believe you that you're sincere. So it takes the sincerity out of it as well. So that's such a great piece to talk about.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. And it is so true. Like I've been on that position where, you delivered on something and you're like, hey, they didn't even notice that was done. And it does feel like, did they even care? Right. And so that's why the timeliness and the sincerity of it is just so powerful, as much, and sometimes in cases more powerful than what in fact the reward that they get or the recognition that they get. It's simply, delivering it a thank you when it impacts and being so genuine about it.
Yeah, there was a phrase that you said, Hector, and I don't know if you can remember it, but it was something to do with, recognition doesn't have to cost.
Yeah, recognition is free.
Much or free.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Recognition is free, right? But yet it's one of the
recognition is
biggest engagement drivers.
Yeah, I was when I was married. I was married a long time into my wife was a Mary Kay sales director. The good old Mary Kay Cosmetics. Well, boy, were they ever good at the recognition, recognizing people that were doing well and succeeding and moving up the ranks. I literally saw so many times where the recognition was a presentation of a pencil. You did so well, your sales were great. We're going to give you this special pencil. And I thought, are you kidding? Who's going to feel appreciated from getting a pencil or want to work for the pencil? Because they'd say, well, if you get to this level next month or next week, we're going to bring you on up on the platform and we'll present you with your special pencil. And I just thought it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But it was amazing how time and time again, people were working harder, more focused to get the pencil because they wanted the recognition was important to them, to be recognized as being diligent and working hard and moving up the ladder. And when they got that little dinky pencil, so you're so right, recognition is free, whatever, they were so appreciative. It blows me away that as leaders, we don't do that enough.
Absolutely. Right. And to the point that you're making there, right? It's recognition amongst your peers that sets you as a leader within your peers that is more powerful than what the actual reward was, the pencil. But now your peers see you as a leader, so it motivates you as an individual. It's a psychology behind it, right? And so it's so powerful.
Good lesson. And welcome, Gordon. Gordon Peters, welcome.
Perfect. Good stuff, Willie. All right. Well, we can move on to our number 8 error or mistake, and that's not leading by example. So what does this mean? Well, who's heard the phrase, do as I say and not as I do? I think we've all heard that, right? So it is one of the most frustrating parts when you hear a leader tell you what to do or what you should be doing, but you look at the way that they're behaving and the way they're going about it, and they're not doing it. They're doing completely the opposite. And so I want to make this point, and I'd write this one down. The emotional state of the leader is contagious. If the leader is constantly negative, or if the leader is constantly not delivering, but expecting others to, the team will follow suit. They will do what the leader's doing. So if you're being seen doing the hard things, they will also go and do the hard things. Your team and team members will do the hard things, right? If the leader is not open to taking feedback, doesn't show humility, and doesn't ask for help, guess what? The team's not going to be open to feedback. They're not going to be showing any sort of humility, and they certainly won't be asking for any help. So, if you're constantly overwhelmed, stressed, disengaged, your team will follow suit. It speaks to the point of the leader's behavior, the leader's emotional state is contagious. So the leader sets the tone. The leader is the one that sets boundaries. And it has to make sure that we don't normalize a lot of the frustration that happens within teams, right? And so that means that you have to keep your promises, you have to show consistency, and you have to be human. You have to be human. You have to understand that you're expected to lead. You're not expected to be perfect. That means that you're gonna make mistakes. And it's okay to make the mistakes. Just own them. Say, like, I make mistakes every single day. I'm human. I forget things just like everyone else. But I will own my mistakes. I'll work to fix them. And what I'll try to do is make sure that they're not the same mistakes over and over, because then we have a problem, right? And so those are the things that, when not leading by example, you certainly start to create a lot of frustration. And worse, you start to really burn out the credibility within the leader. So always, like, walk the talk, and especially when it comes to values and work ethic. Stay true to who you are, be consistent on your values and your work ethic, and your team will automatically engage to that, and they will communicate it. It will become contagious. They will exceed that to your team members as well. So that's number 8 for us. I don't know if Alan or Willie, if you have any points to lean on to this one.
Nothing for me, just good stuff, man. I'm taking notes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to number 9. All right, always being on. Okay, I gotta tell you guys, this one is a problem for me. I'm gonna own this one right now. I don't have an off switch. Now, because I don't have an off switch, a lot of folks around me try to emulate that, and they consistently have an on switch all the time. And I find myself now having to say, okay, listen, like, I get it. I understand that I'm on, but I want you to take your time to de-stress. I want you to take your time to spend time with your family. You don't need to be on all the time just because I am. I'm the guy that goes off on holidays and is checking emails and is responding and is available. That's my comfort zone. But you as a leader can't force that or expect that of your team members. That if that's your comfort zone to operate in, by all means, do you. But do not make that the expectation of your team, because what you're going to get is burnout. And by having burnout in your organization, you're going to frustrate people to the point that they're going to feel unappreciated, and they will leave. That, without a doubt, they will leave, and they will take all of their good skills and all of that they've learned onto another employer or another company and be very successful there, because that's generally what I see happens. So how to avoid this is to be open and transparent around work expectations. And like I said earlier, if you're a guy or a person who likes to be on, and you know that that's you, say that to folks. Look, if I'm emailing you at 11 p.m., or if you're seeing emails from me after hours and they're not urgent, do not respond to them. If they're just communication and expectations of what's to come, we can talk about that in the morning. Don't feel like you need to respond to me at 11, 12 p.m., 1 a.m. in the morning. Just because I'm working at that time does not mean that I expect you to be doing that. Support flexibility and recovery strategies, meaning, like, hey, go take your day. It's Friday, like, noon, go home, go spend time with your family. It's quiet, like, go home, go do that. right? And the other one that I always think is important is to be honest about like digital discipline, because there's so many of us that today's date with emails and Slack and WhatsApp and all of these communication tools that I have now, even for myself, when I go to the gym, I'll say, look, I'm leaving my work phone in at home. I won't have it with me. But if there's an emergency, you can reach me in this line. This is the one line that you can reach me. So you set boundaries as to how you could be reached. And that could be taught to your people. You could say, look, you're going away on holidays. Do not take your work phone on you. But, if you want to be kept up to speed on how things are going, what's the one channel that you want the information to flow, right? And just setting those boundaries for those that feel like they need to be on, but you don't want to burn them out. So this is a mistake that I still see quite a few leaders apply.
Hector, may I ask a question? And are
Yeah.
there, and I don't know, are there laws around this now? I kind of heard some rumor a while back that maybe in some employment standard regulations or rules that you actually can't send communications out to employees after a certain time of day or things like that. Is that true? Do you know things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not true. There is no legality around it. What the legality of the caution here is that there is a myth or a misunderstanding of the overtime laws when it comes to salaried individuals. Okay, so this is not hourly, but salaried staff, and in specifically to Alberta, I can tell you, and in most cases through Canada, provincial law, labor code states that although an individual is a salaried person, they are entitled to overtime. So just because they're on salary doesn't mean you can work them 100 hours a week. That's just not legal without paying them overtime. Right? So this is number 9, and then we can move on to number 10. So this is one that is very similar to a theme we heard earlier, but poor communication. Like poor communication. If your team is spending more time deciphering your messages than doing their jobs, that's a huge problem. Now, who's ever left a meeting after talking to a leader or supervisor and looked around the room and said, what the heck was that? Like, what am I actually supposed to do? What did that person mean? If you haven't experienced that, good on you. But if you're like most of us who've experienced that type of frustration, it's something that really, as leaders, we need to work on this. And where is the biggest mistake is around vague communication. It's not specific. It's very wide in sometimes how leaders communicate what they expect to be done. And because it's so wide, it leads to a lot of misunderstanding. So understand the type of setting in which you want to communicate. As an example, is this an email? Is this something that could be read and understood? Or is this a phone call? Or is this an in-person? There's sometimes messages from me where I'll say, okay, I have to have this conversation with this individual, but I'm going to wait the week until I can drive up to there and go see that person in face to face so we can talk about it. Because if I just call them or if I just send an email, we're not going to get the clear message across here. I need to be able to read body language. I need to be able to understand that it has been understood. I need to be able to see it. I need to walk away saying this person has it. So, one of the things that a lot of people tend to also mistake here is that they misuse wordiness and large words in their communication style. And I'll always say, people, just be clear. Like, you don't need to complicate it. It doesn't need to be that. Tailor it to your audience and keep it simple so that people can really understand it and be able to go and do the work that they need to do, right? I always find it interesting when you have various different styles of an audience. You have some that are educated, like post-secondary education. You have others that are not. You have some infield, you have some office, and you try to deliver a message that's going to get everybody. But with that, you have to recognize that there's going to be some people that are not going to be aware of some of the wording. So maybe pull them aside after and just do the check-in with some individuals. Hey, do you need any clarity? Did you understand that part? One-on-one is a lot easier to get people to open up about what they may not have understood. So don't, just lean back and say at the end of a presentation, hey, has anybody got any questions? And because there's none, doesn't mean that there aren't any. Go do the follow-up. Go check in with people and ensure that truly the message was understood. So doing the circle checks, verify comprehension, and not that just the delivery was sort of taken, is really important for poor communication. So this is one that I encourage people to really work on. I try to work on this one all the time because, like me and many of you, you're talking to different people with all kinds of experience, all kinds of maybe English level in today's Canada, in work environments. And so it's important that we check for understanding when it comes to our delivery messages. So those folks are our top 10 mistakes that leaders make in the workplace. And, those are our 5 back end ones that we wanted to discuss with the group today.
You could turn this lesson into like a David Letterman top 10 and just and then rank them in some level that you think is a level of importance, or from worst to best or best to worst or something, and then count them down. Drum roll would be awesome.
I like it. I like it, Alan. Yeah, because there's definitely some ones that are definitely like a top 10, like number one. If I was to, tell you what I see as the number one out of all those 10 is failure to have the hard conversation. Like that one, man, I can go into any team, into any organization, and I can hear it from at least one leader who will tell me, oh, it's gonna fix itself. I don't need to have the tough conversations. It'll be fine. It'll figure itself out. And then you later learn how bad that strategy is.
When you say that maybe you can pick a number one like that one, or would you say it's because it causes the most damage, or just because it's the most common?
Yeah, it's both. It's like a 1A and 1B. It is certainly the most common because I hear it everywhere that I go. And it is the one that causes the most damage from a frustration standpoint when it impacts the good individuals in the organization. Yeah. All right. Well, let's open it up. Willie, I know you're at the airport. I know sometimes the communication is hard, but anything to add from your end?
Willie must have some really great practical examples of all of these.
Yeah, I I I look at this and say it's all so important. And what are the best practices going forward so we don't forget these and start integrating them into our daily lives?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, from a best practice standpoint, is first starts with understanding that these are mistakes and not allowing them to be holding you back as a leader, right? And, put some actions behind it. If you know, like I do, that I'm always on, put some corrective actions that will allow me to work on that so that I can communicate with others and like, hey, just because you see me all the time, that's on me. I don't expect you to do that. And openly tell people that so that they don't expect that.
yeah, very good. Yeah, it's something that I feel like I need to hang up in my office and be reminded every day.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe open it up here to Peter. I know this is the first time you're here with us. What are some of your takeaways about what we've discussed today, and maybe some questions from you?
For me was number 7 and number 8 and number 10. Poor communication. That was a major one that I used to work for the guy. Expecting to read the mind that he was thinking, and I after 6 years I was pretty good at it, but sometimes I still couldn't read his mind, and then there was the disappointment because I didn't meet up to the expectation that he was expecting of, right? And that for me is a huge one, and that is one that I'm working on to towards, because to me that is major.
Yeah, absolutely. And having the ability to feel comfortable to do the check-in for clarification, right? Is just saying, hey, is this understood? Do you get it? Is there anything that we need to discuss further when delivering it, expectations to the team, so that you can walk away saying, okay, my team's got it. And that individual walks away knowing this is what I got to deliver to.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. I'm not sure who else is on, Alan. I'll pass it back to you since you've got views here.
Well, we lost somebody, and I didn't write his name down. But anyway, I've been curious, over the last number of weeks. I know, Cecilia, I'm going to maybe put you on the spot a little bit, but you've been on these calls, and from what I'm hearing, you have some history with Hector, and maybe working in the environments with Hector. So, if I've understood that correctly, you must probably have some great where the rubber meets the road practical applications of seeing the good and the bad of some of these. I'd love for you to maybe chime in about some of your experiences. And Willie, maybe if you would mute, I think we're getting some background noise. It might be from the airport there.
Yeah, so I think what I was thinking just now when I see the list of these mistakes is that, yeah, like Willie says, you have to put it somewhere in your office so that you remember, right? So it's easy to forget or to have all these mistakes present. But I think for me, with my teams, what I see is that when we start having issues, whatever issues that we have in the team, and it starts reflecting, it starts affecting our performance as a team, the first thing I think is like, what am I doing wrong? Like, because you have to look at yourself and the things you're doing because you're the leader. So I don't think, oh, well, I know it was this guy because I know this team member is being, slacking or this and that. Like, I try not to think about that. I think, what are you doing wrong? Because whether you have a team member that is not as efficient as the other ones, is still under your lead. So I start looking at myself and looking at the things that how we're directing, and again, that's what it takes you back to this list. Then you're like, okay, maybe I wasn't so clear with the things that I asked, or maybe I haven't had this tough conversation. I've been putting it off, and I need to have that conversation. So it always goes back to that, one of those mistakes, because it has to be done, right? And yeah, I mean, some are easier said than done, like the tough conversations, but very important. And then the other one, and I think that one is because it involves confrontation, right? So that always puts people on an uncomfortable position, both the one delivering the message and the one that is taking it. So but I guess the other ones are just as important, just being clear on the expectations, rewarding. That one is a major for me. I forget, like, I totally, like, oh yeah, we did awesome, but it's not the same as, separating that individual and make it about that person. So that one is one that I have to remind myself as well. And then what was the other one? The one for being on. I'm kind of like Hector, like, I'm, yeah, workaholic. So my husband keeps telling me, like, stop it, leave the phone or whatever, but I like to know what's going on, you know. But yeah, I do encourage my team to also, when they're off, be off, take the time off, and it's very important.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was, I could have almost just sat and take notes on what you just chimed in on there. So that was really great. I really appreciate it. You added a lot of value to that. I love how you said, maybe not a bad idea that we take a list like this and stick it on the wall in our office, and we see it in front of us all the time. We don't just leave here today and then it's going to be out of sight, out of mind, and we forget about this top 10 list, or we're not going to remember to go into the into the community, into the, onto the platform and find it. But if we can maybe print it out or stick it somewhere where we're going to see it, I think, we would probably eliminate 90 or more % of our problems that we have with people if we kept these top 10, these 10 mistakes top of mind and worked at getting better at these. It would make life so much easier, wouldn't it? So what a good lesson this has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just about the energy that it drains from your operation. It makes things inefficient and frustrating when we just want to focus on getting some really good quality work completed, right? And it takes the noise away and the frustration away. If we can keep these 10 things, out of the picture or minimized as much as possible, right? But like I said, we're human and we're all going to make these mistakes, but recognizing them and understanding what you could work on is going to be that key game changer as leaders.
I was thinking about when Cecilia was talking about number 7, the never recognizing effort. And Cecilia, you said, I caught it correctly, that, that is a bit of a one maybe for you to highlight or work on for you, because you're a giver. I mean, you're a go-getter. You're just giver. You're always on. And you can maybe sometimes very innocently forget, if that's the term, to recognize somebody's effort, because, hey, we're the leaders and we see further, farther, faster. Let's go. And sometimes when we have to stop to recognize somebody, it's frustrating because now we got to slow down some momentum so I can sort of go over here and recognize somebody. I've really come to learn over the years that piece of recognizing somebody, the person's personality and behavioral styles really plays into that. Not only mine as a leader, but for the person that maybe deserves that recognition as well. And there's different ways to recognize people, and what might really work well for you, Hector, might not work really well for Peter. And so I have to know my people's personal and behavioral styles well enough, and how they differ from mine, so that I know how and when to give you and the environment of which to give you the recognition that's due. Some people, they want it public. Like, give me my recognition at the staff meeting so everybody can see how good I am, right? There's people like that.
Right.
And some people, that's the worst thing you could do. Give it to me in private behind closed doors, because I don't want everybody to know. And I mean, that's just an example, but I don't know if you teach or if anywhere on the platform there's going to be lessons about personnel behavioral styles. And there's a number of different ones to choose from. I'm certified in one of them, but I think that's just a really great tie into that number 7 mistake. We should.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there certainly is one around that builds into that, Alan, and it's further down sort of the 52-week course outline that Willie and I have created, but it will be coming. It'll be coming. So you got to stick around to see that for sure. But one of the things is we talked about recognition, and as I don't want to forget to point this one out. So for the group that leads, large teams, we always are more encouraged as humans to recognize and reward those accomplishments that go above and beyond. But we often forget about the steady Eddie that just never makes mistakes, and it just always delivers because they're quiet. They don't make noise and they never make mistakes, but it's never such a high win that it encourages you to celebrate it. But look out for those. Every one of our teams has those individuals. They're just quiet, consistent, and delivering. So reward those, recognize those too, because those are people that are very important to your team. They just do it in subtle ways that don't necessarily capture a whole lot of attention.
Well, that's good.
I would just like to add to that a little bit, where my coach, going back many years, and I've shared this, I think, before, he got me to put a coin in my pocket. He said, put a coin in your pocket on the left-hand side or whatever side you choose, but by the end of the day, it needs to be in the other pocket. And that's how you are going to know if you have recognized and rewarded somebody, or just recognize what they're doing good for the business. And I feel if you do it so intentionally, you're actually now thinking, okay, who should I actually recognize today? And then it comes to mind for those people that just do their work or for me, that was where I started thinking of the people that maybe aren't really thought about giving recognition to sometimes because they do such a good job.
Yeah. You know, it could be simple as someone within the team that hasn't missed a day, a sick day in X amount of time. Maybe it's been months, maybe it's been over a year. They haven't called in sick, but you never think about recognizing that person because it's just consistent. They're just always there. Instead, you focus to, oh, that sales rep just exceeded our sales target, or, you know, we achieved this number KPI that we're looking to achieve. But again, the steady Eddie within the group that goes unrecognized.
Will you make me laugh with that piece of advice? I've heard that from actually a coach that I had years ago, and he was telling that story where he had got that same advice. Put a couple of coins in your pocket, put them on the left-hand side, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and by the end of the day, make sure that they're all transferred over to the right. And you get to transfer one over every time you recognize somebody or give somebody some praise. And he was telling a story one time where he was walking out at the end of the day and he realized he still had a couple of coins in the left-hand pocket. He needed to get right back in there and give somebody some praise and recognition before he goes home. And so he says, you know, the lesson for him was make sure it's sincere, make sure that it's actually something worth praiseworthy, not just, you know, dude, good job. That doesn't mean anything to anybody, you know.
Yeah.
We may as well just say, man, I just love the way you breathe. I mean, it doesn't mean anything to somebody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, any thoughts, input from what we've discussed here today from you as well?
I've heard about the same saying, but this was just a little bit the opposite. One of the bosses I used to work with, he had this saying that put nails in one side of the pocket, and every time you got mad at the other, one of your workers put one nail to the other pocket, and by the end of the day, he had all the nails in the other pockets, and he like, I need to change that. I need to keep him in the left pocket. So that to me, it's a really good lesson that you guys are teaching here because I've had the same thing happen to me, right? Um,
Mhm.
I love this where you guys bring the shining out of the pockets and all the stuff that comes to light here. I just really love it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you know, again, you know, as we talk about leaders and the whole point of this community is to develop, you know, leaders and to grow you and all of us as leaders. And so we want to make sure that we continue to build on the talk and walk the walk. And that means, look, we're humans. We want to make sure that we have these 10 points or mistakes known to us and learn from them. Like, let's just apply them. And I think, you know, maybe a learning is for next week when we all meet again is what's the one out of the 10 that we all worked on consciously in this upcoming week? Like, if there's one takeaway from the 10 that we saw over the last 2 weeks for this group, when we come back next Thursday, is that we will have each and everybody share, what did you work on for the last week? What was the one? And what did you see was improved by you working on? Maybe that's one that we'll do a check-in on next week. What do you think, Willie or Alan? Is that one that we should do that next week? There we go. Thumbs up.
We should do it. You know, it's great. I love the idea, Hector, because, you know, you look at psychological studies, and one of the things that you see in there is that, you know, we come to, here we are, we're coming to learn today. So we've come to the Zoom to learn. We get a lesson and we take notes, or we, you know, we see this like, oh, that was really, really good. Oh, that's really, really good. And then what happens tomorrow? And what happens the next day? And what happens the next day? And psychological research tells us that we've got only a window of opportunity of maximum 72 hours. But for most people, wide brushstroke, it's only 48 hours. And if we don't implement something of the new thing that we've learned, we never will. It's out of sight, out of mind. And we go, oh yeah, I took that course. Oh yeah, I sat in on that Zoom. Yeah, but it didn't really do anything for me. And so we need to actually take something and apply that, because then it's going to lead to positive change. So I think it's a good thing. We should find something that then we could purposefully be accountable to for next week, to say, pick one of the 10.
Yep.
And then which one of the 10, why did you choose that, and how did you implement it, and what was the result or outcome? And then it
That's
gives
right.
us an actual intentional way to expand and to grow and to become better, so that we're better next week than we are this week.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I think, why don't we do that as a group? Let's make a commitment. You know, all of us that are here, let's pick one, and let's report back next week. What did we find? What were some of the key learnings, and why did we choose it? Right, as Alan stated, why did we choose that one? So, yeah, we're a bit early to 6 p.m., but I'll pass it back over to Willie.
Yeah, very good. Thanks so much again, Hector. And I just love the content that you're bringing to the group here, and such a good reminder for myself. So yeah, thanks for bringing this information. And also, I was thinking here, of the 10 points, I'm going to design maybe a PDF file with all of them on there, and I'll share it in the group so you can print it off and hang it up maybe in your office.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, so go into the community. That's, I'm sure, where you'll post it, and
Yeah.
then we'll be able to have access to it.
So will
You
this
bet.
become one of the courses in the community that we can actually go in and take a course?
They all are there. It'll be split into 2 different courses, Alan, but thanks for pointing it out. They are there. I know last week's was just going to be dropped this week, and the one that we just discussed will be dropped next week. So it will all be there for the group to also have access to the courses, rehear the messaging, and and have access to the recordings.
Beautiful. Yeah, we're gonna forget.
I was hoping to upload the one course this week, but I was not able to do it from my internet here in the hotel was too poorly. So I'm planning to do it once I get home.
Perfect. Well, Willie, I know you have a flight to catch in about 5 minutes, so we're on a tight window for you. And
Yes.
have a safe flight back to Canada.
Yeah,
Very
and
good.
we've only got about 5 minutes on the call anyway. So should we just bid everybody a happy Thursday and carry on, or did you want to
Yeah,
fill 5
absolutely.
minutes?
Yeah, let's do that, Alan. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank
Celia,
you.
nice to see your face
You bet.
today.
Thank
And
you.
Peter, come back again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Take care. Thanks. Bye.